we've got to look at is something called external economies and diseconomies of scale. This causes massive confusion, because everybody thinks, oh, it's to do with external growth, it's to do with mergers and so on, and it isn't. And what it's to do with is an increase in the scale of the industry. So your business is staying the same size, and what's happening is the industry is growing around you. And that could lead to advantages and it could lead to disadvantages. If you get lower costs, then you've got external economies of scale as a result of the industry growing around you, a change in the scale of the industry. If as a result of a change in the scale of the industry your costs rise, you've got what's called external diseconomies of scale. It's not about it's not about aliens coming from Mars and giving you new technology, so it's not that sort of thing. It's about your industry grows, what is the effect on you as a member of the industry? Now, I've done a version of this before that's quite good, so I'm going to refer to old assignment in about 5 seconds, and then I'll be back at the end. So this is not to do with what's called external growth, which is extremely confusing. I wish that people would come up with better terms for things. So external growth, is where firms engage in M&A activity. So mergers and acquisitions. So as you know, last year Sainsbury's and Asda were proposing to join together. That would have generated huge economies of scale, but those would have been internal economies of scale. Because that's to do with an increase in the size of the firm. What these is to do with, is to do with the industry itself. So what they are, is an increase in the scale of the industry as a whole, which affects, therefore, affecting all firms within it. And there might be economies of scale or there might be diseconomies of scale. So it affects all firms. It affects small firms, it affects medium-sized firms, and of course, it affects large firms. So what we're saying then is, why might it be beneficial or not beneficial to you, if the industry around you gets bigger? And when I teach this, what I'm normally talking about is this idea. We're thinking about something like the car industry or something is today compared with the car industry 100 years ago. The point is that today what's happened is that there are very large numbers. As the industry has grown, as there are more and more firms in it. So it's grown in terms of the number of firms, and it's also grown in terms of kind of unit sales. As the industry's grown, what's happened is that a number of things have happened or happened in general. So one thing that tends to happen is that you get specialist suppliers set up. So we looked at Motorsport Valley, and we speculated that there are probably lots of specialist suppliers of parts for Formula One. When you look at the car industry, which is now huge scale, what you've got is firms that just specialise in producing windscreen wipers, firms that specialise in producing brake discs, brake pads, tyres. In reality, a lot of these car firms are really just assembling parts that standard parts that have been made for them by suppliers. These suppliers get internal economies of scale. So if you're producing 30 million windscreen wipers, then you can knock them out quite cheap. But the impact, therefore, on the car industry as a whole, is that they can buy in all their parts more cheaply, and therefore all firms have lower costs. It's also likely that you're going to end up with specialist workers. In textbooks, this is often called a pool of skilled labour. When you think about if I wanted to set up a new bank, new kind of financial consultancy, where would I go? I go London, because that's where all the workers are. If I want to set up a biotech company, I go somewhere like Cambridge or Cambridge probably in the UK, because of the links with the university, there are a hell of a lot of workers there. So because the industry is big, that attracts workers into that sector, so it's easy to recruit. Or also, if you contrast, say, the computing industry today, with say 50 years ago, today it's very easy to get somebody who can code, write computer programs, because they all go and take degrees. 50 years ago, there were very, very few computer degrees. So if you want somebody, you've got to train them yourself. As a result of that, as the industry itself gets bigger, what that means is that all firms potentially have benefits. Yeah, so there's your long run average cost curve. Yeah, there's a small firm, there's a medium firm, there's a large firm. Yeah, the small firm has lower unit costs, the medium-sized firm has lower unit costs, and the large firm has lower unit costs. Now, it's nothing to do with the size of the firm itself. It's to do with the fact that the industry itself has grown. As I say, more firms have come into it, yeah, or the industry just in terms of total sales increased. Yeah, and as a result, existing firms have benefited as a result of that growth. They have lower unit costs, primarily for those two reasons are the fairly obvious ones. Yeah. On the other hand, obviously, it can go wrong. So what we said is that as industries grow, the problem is there are more firms in that industry, and the worry about that is when we look at external diseconomies. The key is competition, not between the firms for customers. That's a revenue effect. Whereas here we're talking about costs. The key problem actually is competition for resources. And what we thought about here is some of the examples we came up with. We thought about the City of London as a good example of the financial sector has grown very significantly over the since about 1986 in the UK. There have been various benefits, but obviously what's happened is that as you got more banks and insurance companies and so on in London, what's happened because there's competition for labour. Well, you all know because you want to go and do it. That banking is very well paid. Yeah, but that's because of competition between banks and for workers. Yeah, so competition for labour can drive up wages. Yeah, if you want. Yeah, we also all know that that trying to rent in London is ludicrously expensive as well. Yeah, there's a competition for land. Yeah, which leads to an increase in rents and so on. Yeah. Same story we've argued. Yeah, you could argue the same story somewhere like China. Yeah, where again, if you look at the eastern seaboard, land prices and labour prices have gone up. With labour, we looked at the idea of the expansion of the scale of the Premiership. Yeah, has again driven up competition for top players. Yeah, or globalisation of that market. And we also talked about the idea that big sectors may be more likely to be regulated. Yeah, so as you get bigger, you become more interesting to the government, and as a result, again, potentially your unit costs are going to get driven up. And therefore, that's just the reverse argument. There's output, there's costs. There's your longer average costs. Yeah, and whether you're small, medium, or large, what happens is that you end up with higher costs, than you would otherwise have done. Average cost inputs up to there, and that is an external diseconomy scale. It's present me again. I just wanted to clarify, kind of how you can, kind of match up the short run and the kind of long run thing when you're looking at external economies and diseconomies. Yeah. So it's kind of external economies and diseconomies of scale. So there's the longer average cost curve, for a kind of representative firm. Let's suppose that the firm is currently operating on SRAC 1. All an external economy of scale is going to do is it shifts us to LRAC 2, and all that happens is the firm's short run average cost curve is shifted downwards. So there's no change in the scale of the firm. And likewise, in the case of external diseconomies of scale, same thing happens. Long run average cost curve is shifted up to LRAC 3. All that happens is the firm's short run average cost curve is shifted up to SRAC 3 again. So there's no change in the scale of the business. The firm stays the same size. All that's happening is that the industry is changing in size around that same size business.